Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tia.
And today we decided we're going to do something a little different. Even though we have recorded 40 episodes of Masks Off, which that in and of itself is incredible and unbelievable to me since we started only a couple of months ago. But we thought what we would do is take a little deeper dive in interviewing or just telling a little bit more about ourselves. Not an interview, that sounds too formal, but we're just going to tell you a little bit more about me and a little bit more about Tia and how we came together and tell you about our journey.
We figured we talk a lot and you get to know us through these episodes, but you may not know our start, our beginning.
Exactly. Certainly know a lot about what I do now. I share all my experiences with my kids and stuff. But yeah, see where we each started and how we got to where we are now. So our quote for today is, awakening is about liberating yourself from the prison that is the world of the mind and daring to be here as all that you are, by Leonard Jacobson. So I will start by asking you, Tia, Miss Tia Fagan, tell us a little bit about your story, because we all have a story, right? Sure, we all have where we started, middle, and we're still in the middle. We're still going. How did you get started on your path? The awakening is about liberating yourself from the prison that is the world of the mind.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was in a prison. I had no awareness. And now I look back and I'm like, holy cow. I was just going with the motions, doing what I was supposed to do, right? Being perfect, even though I wasn't, but striving for that perfection. So my journey, I'm an only child. I do have half siblings, which I met later in adulthood, but because I did not grow up with them, I still think of myself as an only child, which I've shared in, particularly in the last episode, how that really, I feel, influenced a lot of who I am today, just because it was all me. I was the only kid and I had to do what I had to do, that perfectionism and all that comes with it. But so with that, I went to college and followed the path that's expected of me, which was to get a degree that was worthwhile. That would get you a job and pay money. Otherwise, why bother? So I was an engineer. So I very much was in my head, in that prison of my mind, right? Very analytical. I still am, but now I'm more balanced between analytical and emotional and that spiritual connection. But I had no spiritual connection intentionally. I do feel that I always felt there was something, but I never really explored it. I just had a deep knowing that something was there. I was taught to listen to my gut and my intuition a little bit more, particularly in those, potentially dangerous situations. So I still had that connection to my gut, but not to anything else. Because I was following the rules, doing all the cultural conditioning, became an engineer, got married, had kids, check, bought a house, check, all of that. And then my kids were born. So there was always the plan to have one kid. Two was a possibility. And the universe said, no, you are having two at one time. Here are your twins. So the universe right away was like, we are going to shake this girl up. And having children often does. And it can be a moment of awakening or starting to go on the path intentionally. And for me, it was, so I had, didn't know I was having twins till halfway through the pregnancy during the routine ultrasound. So that was it was a shock. It was just going in for, the one ultrasound you get to have and being all excited. And the tech is like, well, there's two in there. And it's like, excuse me? I don't remember anything else of that ultrasound at all, because the world was no longer going according to my plan. So I was put on bed rest a couple weeks later. So I was on bed rest, working from home. And the only reason I'm saying this is it's showing how my amazing daughters were my awakeners, because I could no longer live life the way I thought it should be, because I was on bed rest. You can't. It's impossible to live life when you're literally can get up once in the morning, go down the stairs, lay on the couch all day, and then walk back up the stairs once. And I know bed rest has changed now, I think, but at the time, that's what it was. So anyway, so they were born early. They were induced at 34 weeks in the NICU for 12 days. Luckily, it was mainly feed and grow. They were only on the more, just to watch them, observe that first night. And so motherhood did not start out how I expected either, because they're in the hospital for 12 days.
Wow.
But it was a blessing in disguise, just, because I learned a lot from the nurses and had that transition time. But I mean, any NICU situation, there's some trauma anyway, because there's lots of lights and all of that. So then they came home and I telecommuted for work when they were napping. And eventually I'm like, why am I an engineer? Why am I doing this? I'm going to raise my kids. So I officially quit, I think when they were around a year old, even though I was not working much at all. And engulfed myself in motherhood, because I was going to be the perfect mother and attend
Did you read all the books?
Oh my goodness.
What to expect when you're expecting, and then there on out.
Oh my goodness. And then whenever there was a challenge, I had to find the next book to give me the answer, because I wasn't tapped in that I already had the answer. I needed an external source to say, yeah, you are doing the right thing, even though it didn't really tell me anything different. And honestly, a lot of it, what I read did not feel good, so I didn't do it anyway. But yeah, I was constantly consuming, right? Consuming to be perfect. Oh, I have to make sure that their needs are met. But in the meantime, my needs were not being met. I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't even know who I was. And so when I was able to finally come up for air is when they started Montessori preschool. So I had those, they went there for 3 hours, but with travel time, because we live in the country, it really was 2 hours. And that's when I started being like, you know what, I don't want to go back and be an engineer. What do I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. So it really started, the crack of light started coming in. I'm like, this is your opportunity to reset, to start over, to find out what lights me up inside. Who am I? And so I started, starting to add in not just parenting books, but like Eckhart Tolle, reading, what was it? On Oprah's book club, Gratitude, Gifts of Gratitude. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically the Gratitude Journal book. I can't recall.
Oh yeah, she's
Baumbach, whatever her name is. But basically started reading more, self-help books. And as we've talked about, you can read the books, but you have to put it into action. Mm-hmm. But it was the start. It was creating the foundation. And then over time, I did joined circle groups, which were amazing, and which is why I lead them today, because it was really transformational for me. I did a 3-year Equine emotional spiritual growth workshop type of situation, where you're literally with the horses. And how we say your kids are your mirrors. Well, horses are incredible mirrors too. And so I had a lot of growth there. So it just opened my mind, and I realized it's a journey and it's a path, and I don't have to have all the answers. And then obviously Dr. Shefali, which we can talk more about after you speak as well. And she was the missing puzzle piece for my parenting, because I was doing all this internal growth work. And then I read The Conscious Parent, and it was like, holy cow, this is the piece I've been missing. And so I could intentionally take my personal growth work and bring it into my parenting. Because I had already seen the lessons my kids were giving me, but it wasn't intentional and it wasn't purposeful. And so learning from Dr. Shefali all these years has been huge. And of course, other teachers as well. I mean, we talk about Brené Brown. I mean, and there's plenty more. And we'll talk about the work path later in the conversation. But so that's really my kids were my awakeners. They were the ones who cracked open the door for me. And I'm forever grateful. And they continue to teach me every day, even though they're in their 20s, right? Just never ends.
We say that all the time.
Yep. Yeah. How about you? How did you get started on the journey climbing the mountain?
I know. I think our stories are somewhat similar. First of all, seekers are seekers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you're always a seeker, and I was always a seeker as well. And I can remember, even though I don't practice Catholicism anymore, I do remember when I was young, maybe 10 years old, 11 years old, just walking myself to church, going by myself because it wasn't all that far, and going to the youth group, and just knowing like I felt some kind of connection to something that was bigger and greater than myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just had that sense. And even more so before that, always nature.
Oh yeah.
So when from the age of 5 until the age of 17, I think I may have shared this before, I spent every summer at my aunt and uncle's place on a lake. Like the day, school got out in June, the next day my mom brought me up there, and I stayed the entire summer.
Wow.
Until like the day before school started.
That's amazing.
And it was, I'm so eternally grateful for those years, because it just was amazing in the sense how much I connected with the water, with the lake, and then the trees. And when I would wake up in the morning and the lake was like glass, that kind of calmness.
Yeah.
And if I were to go out on the lake, as I often would, whether I was rowing the boat across the lake to go to swim lessons, just that whole like stillness, like that's what it was for me. I didn't know how to identify or articulate it back then, but knowing what I know now, just how still the water was. And I connected to this deep, deep stillness within myself.
Wow.
And those were the times when I felt most myself, were those summers up on that lake, because I felt one with nature.
Nice.
And then as soon as I'm back in school and there's the competition and the comparison and there's the achieving and the performing and the perfection, I would forget who I was.
Right.
So I always had that like foundation from when I was little. And then, so, like I said, in school, did the whole performing perfection thing, graduated from high school, went on to college, got my bachelor's, went on and got my master's in education, taught high school, get all the while gradually losing more and more of myself and putting on more and more masks.
Right.
As every year went by, more and more masks, because that's how I was supposed to fit in. Right. That's how I learned how to fit in and feel like I was belonging, not a true belonging in the sense that Brene says, but a fitting in.
Right.
Graduated from college. I graduated when I was 20. Maybe I was turning 21, met Paul shortly after. It's kind of a cool story because he was bartending and I was waitress at the same place, cocktail waitress. And so we met there, and then I was married by the time I was 24. So I was still a baby.
Wow.
I know, I was really young. And, those were the 20s. So they were still having fun, being oblivious, not really touching, connecting with myself, whatever. 30 is when I had Ryan. So, and then I had Angela when I was 33. And I think that is when I started to do all the self-help books as well. So that's where the story is similar in the sense that when I had kids, that they were my awakeners, but it was really slow back then, just beginning. And I did read all the books, did journaling and so on and so forth. I think, when did I meet Shefali? It was way, way later when I met Shefali. When this is 2020. So what did we
2013
when she started? Was that when it was?
Yeah. I keep saying,
I know. I always forget.
It was
exactly.
It was 2012 to 2014, somewhere in there.
Okay. Somewhere in there. And I do remember at that point that I met her because I was going to a conference where she was the keynote speaker, but the conference was about mindfulness and education. And I thought to myself, well, when the kids are older or whatever, if I go back and teach, maybe I would want to incorporate mindfulness. So that's why I went. So at that point, then I was already introduced to meditation because I knew what mindfulness was. So I'd already started a meditation practice. I was listening to Tara Brach a lot. She was my gateway into meditation.
Okay.
And so I took many courses with Tara Brach. But even before her, my first introduction was Bernie Siegel. And I did a lot of his mind-body meditations and mind-body tapes because in 2006 is when I was diagnosed with having Sjogren's. So those years were really rough in terms of I had a lot of physical symptoms. I was sick a lot. And from the time I had Ryan, really, when I was 30 until, 37, when I was diagnosed, somewhere around in there, it was, the focus was really on taking care of them and not feeling well. But then I started with Bernie Siegel. I started reading Louise Hay, and I started on this path of how am I going to heal myself?
Right.
Because I can't I can't take care of these babies. I can't take care of these kids the way that I'm feeling.
Right.
And learning a lot about autoimmune is not taking care of the self. And so that was really an opening point for me where I did start to take better self-care. So then fast forward to when I did go to that conference on the mindfulness and heard Shefali speak, it was like, okay, that was the piece that I needed for my parenting as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even just, as we know, it's not
Right.
about the parenting, it's about us.
Exactly.
So then just being cracked open even more, and what more can I heal within myself? Taking the Year of the Awakened Heart was an amazing class, learning so much about the inner child, and then really beginning to understand even more that inner child and the ego and healing the wounds. Shefali always says all the time that we need to fill the HOLES, the holes within us, to become whole, WHOLE.
Right.
And so that really has been a huge part of my journey. And I mean, if there's anything else in life that I love to do, it's personal growth. I just love to talk about it. I love to do it. I'm all about personal growth. And that is one of my top core values, is personal growth, transformation, and evolving.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I know. So we both kind of touched upon how we met each other. So we
common teacher.
And we were trying to figure out the year. So we don't know, somewhere between 2012, 2014, when Shefali first started her courses.
Back when I thought there'd be 1,000 people signing up, and it was not very many.
No, she was right at the beginning of her own path, her own journey. She had The Conscious Parent out already, and she already had Out of Control. Both are great books.
Yep. Highly recommend them. She had been on Oprah a few times already, although I didn't know that she was on Oprah when I saw her in New York City at that conference. I had never heard of her before, never saw her before. She was just a keynote speaker. And literally, I went to this conference by myself, and I sat in the row just sobbing the whole entire time, because everything she said in that keynote speech just spoke to my heart and my soul. It was everything that I knew, but I just was never able to articulate or put into words. And she has an amazing gift at being able to do that. Yeah, she definitely does. Such a good speaker.
Just listening. Yeah, she's such an amazing speaker. So even on her own website, she has tons and tons of her talks. So I highly recommend that you listen to those as well.
Yeah. And even if you're not a parent, you don't have to be a parent to learn from her at all.
You don't have to be a parent to learn from her. She just is awesome. So that first course that she offered after The Conscious Parent, we both were on it, and on the Facebook page, where we were just people, all of us that were on there were just posting, hey, I've got this situation. I remember Angela was in 9th grade and she was going through a lot in high school, and I was posting a lot about our struggles then. So 8th grade, 9th grade, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we were just posting.
It was a community, and it was great because, you know, we realized we all weren't alone. Everyone was having their own struggles regardless of the age of their kids. And it was just really supportive. And I think you and I shared, I don't know when we talked, but I don't post much on the Facebook groups anymore, and her as far as challenges that are coming up. Because if I do, I'll start typing and be like, oh yeah, there's the answer. Like I can find the answer within, it's already within me. But it's so neat to know people intimately in these groups, but not know them, you know? So we've known each other, but we didn't know each other.
Right. We definitely never met in person
until a year ago.
It was just virtually until almost a year. It'll be a year in October.
Yeah.
So because Dr. Shefali has these Evolve conferences, and I didn't go to any of them. You had gone to most of them, I think, right?
Most of them, yeah. I'd missed the first one because I didn't feel I was worthy enough to go and leave my kids.
I know, same.
Even though I had planned to go, and then I chickened out at the last minute. So I was at her second, third. I missed the fourth because it was senior year, and it coincided with the long weekend.
Right.
We were going to do college visits, so I had to miss that year. And then
it was year 5. It was last year when we met.
So the 5th.
So we just instantly connected. We started talking, instantly connected, like we had known each other forever.
Which we
have exactly. And then we shared our information with each other, and since last October, we've been keeping in touch. Get on the phone. Hey, how's it going for you? What's going on in your life? I'm struggling with this. What do you think? The back and forth. And so as we mentioned in the very first episode of Masks Off, that's when we said to each other, we should just really record these conversations.
Yeah. And it was a big leap of faith, and both of us going outside our comfort zone. And I am so glad we did.
So am I. I love doing the podcast. I enjoy it so much. I look forward to every week when we get together to record and have the conversations. And I've said so many times, I am growing and learning through doing the podcast. Just even the last one we just did, just to be able to show up here and say, okay, you know, and you've done a ton of work on yourself. I've done a ton of work. And hey, guess what? You know what? I'm still having this show up for me in my life.
Yep.
What do you think? You know, what's going on? So that's amazing to be able to still have that.
It is. I'm so grateful. So it's
fun.
So that's like your journey to where you are now and how we met. So obviously you were a teacher.
I was a teacher.
And now your kids, you know, are adults, excuse me. And you have embarked on a new career path. So why don't you fill us in on that? Because it's all correlated and it's amazing.
Yeah. So I think I was a high school teacher, but I shared before too. Remember, I was saying in the one episode, what did you love to do between the ages of 7 and 14? Right. Is a real good clue as to what you are passionate about, and where your meaning and purpose can be. Right. So for me, I do remember when I was in those ages playing school all the time. I love taking my stick to the board and pretending now, okay, class, you know, I was just loved being the teacher. Yeah. So, and I love being a learner too. Let me just say, I love to learn. I'm as much of the learner as I am a teacher. Yeah. So, but I didn't love teaching high school, and I did not love teaching high school English. So now that Angela is off to college, people have said to me, oh, will you ever go back and teach in high school? And now, especially with coronavirus, and I'm not. So, but I will forever be a teacher at heart, which is why, like, I'm super excited that we're doing the podcast. And we are going to be collaborating and teaching. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Starting with our reset.
So again, if you haven't yet registered, you still have time. The link is there. It's going to be a really fun reset. It's going to be simple, easy, nothing too overpowering.
And it won't cost you a penny.
And it won't cost anything.
It's free.
Just show up. And you get to do more with us.
That's right.
So then it was kind of that question, okay, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What do I want to do when I grow up?
Exactly.
Kind of
the ultimate question, right? We ask kids since they're tiny.
Yeah. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I know that about a year ago, I guess it was a year ago, when everyone was signing up for Dr. Shefali's first cohort.
2 years ago.
Was it 2? Has it been 2?
Wait. No, it's a year. No, it is 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Because, I think it's 2.
It's been 2 already. We'll see. It'll be 1 year for me in October since I registered for my certification for RTT. Okay. And I thought it was just before that I was on the fence. Well, whatever the timing was, isn't.
Now I'm really curious.
Yeah, that's
2020, 2019. Whatever.
I remember.
I don't want to waste time trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with Annette about it because she signed up for the first cohort.
Yeah. Right. She and I were in it together, and we had we had graduated that summer before.
Oh, in the June, right? You just finished.
Yep. In June.
Okay. Well, whenever the timing was, there was a point at which whenever you guys did sign up, I was so on the fence, feeling like, okay, I had studied Shefali for all these years. I've taken all of her courses. I read all her books, maybe become a conscious parent coach. Mm-hmm. And there just was something in me that just said, I don't know. I mean, I had so many conversations with Annette, but I knew that I was experiencing FOMO, fear of missing out, if I didn't do it.
Of course.
But there was just something in my gut that said, nope. Not now. And then it must have been for me, at least last summer, is when I saw Marissa appear on Mind Valley, and she did a master class. And then it was for a course, 8-week course, I guess it was, on the uncompromised life. Mm-hmm. I just loved everything about what she was teaching. I fell in love with it. And from there, I was introduced to rapid transformational therapy, which is what she teaches. It's her program. It's her trademark. Mm-hmm. Started in October of last year, of 2019, is when I went for the certification, went through all the schooling, did all the coursework, got my certificate at the end of February, March. And so since then, I have been working on building my website. I've been building my practice and working on all of that stuff, getting Angela off to school so that I could give more time to having sessions with clients. But I absolutely what I love about it is every person that has shown up for me is experiencing or telling me that what they're struggling with is something that I have struggled with myself.
Interesting.
So I can completely, right off the bat, identify with and connect in some way, shape, or form with what they're coming to me for.
Yeah.
And just to be able to take them through this process, through a session where they just are going back and tapping into their inner child and scenes from their childhood, that is the root cause of whatever the issue is. So if it's, I don't have a lot of confidence in my business, if that is the root underlying cause of why that person is self-sabotaging as an adult and doesn't have the confidence in business, is definitely rooted in childhood scenes. And just to be able to have them go back and have the understanding, all while under hypnosis, because the hypnosis is where you just get the conscious mind out of the way, the critical mind out of the way, so that you can go to the subconscious, which is where all of our memories are stored, all of our belief systems are stored. 95% of the mind is the subconscious mind. And so 5% of the mind is the conscious mind, which is mind blowing.
Yeah.
So, and again, what I love about everything that Marissa taught and what I love about RTT is how much you learn and understand about how the mind works. And I love that. Like, I love talking about the limbic system. I love talking about, like, I'm fascinated by all of that. So just to be able to see people having these transformations and realizing, you know, okay, wow, this is why I still continue to do this. And then there are other techniques and tools that I have throughout the session to help heal and then rewire. We talked about the rewiring new neural pathways,
right?
Rewiring so that they can, you know, install and implement new ways of being, new ways of thinking, basically.
Yeah.
Because our thoughts control our feelings, that control our beliefs, that control our actions, that then become our lives. So you want to reroute that.
Exactly.
And create new ones. So it's been like the RTT and doing the podcast and what we're collaborating is just everything coming like full circle. And it's so amazing, the synchronicity of watching it all blend together.
Yeah.
And just, it's just so right there. And I'm just super, super excited about it.
It's so great. Yeah. So
what about you? Tell us about how you morphed into yours.
Yeah. So with Shefali, so I've been, excuse me, I did that equine spiritual healing 3-year thing. And so I could get trained in that and do it. And it was, there was a pull there. It was a definite pull because, you know, I'm very much an animal person. We have horses. I mean, we did the training with my herd, they're their herd, but, and so I knew I wanted to do something in helping people return to themselves.
Yeah.
Peel back those layers. So that was becoming clearer to me because prior to that, you know, like I said, the kids went to preschool and I started to figure out, and I'm like, I need to get a job because I felt I needed to be bringing in some income, but I didn't want to do that. So I dabbled and I did some business work for a Pilates studio. And, you know, so I was doing their bookkeeping, and then I transitioned into professional organizing. And then I was doing that for a while. And then I transitioned to doing development work for the Montessori school, helping with their capital campaign because we were building a school and I was on the board there. And then the equine work. So it was just like dabble, the windy road.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So that was it.
Yeah, I love that.
And the professional organizing, when you think about it, it really is about inner work, right? It's just the external clutter. And so I didn't realize that at the time. And so I was like, do I want to do equine work? How do I want to do this? And I took the circles as a participant. And I'm like, I love this because I had such a personal transformation in those, because they were year-long circles. It was a huge commitment.
Yeah, that is a long time, a year. That's like Shefali. Yeah, that's a long time.
So, and you're with the same people and you don't really know them. You don't know them outside the circle. Like I didn't know what anyone did for a living. I didn't know, you know, other than what they would share in the circle. And so it helped me see that we're not those stories that we project out into the world. And so it was starting to become clear, you know, like, okay, it's definitely self-growth work. Well, how does that look? What is it going to look like? And I was so still in my head, like, I need an answer. And then Shefali and my bringing that work into my parenting and seeing how the relationships with my kids changed and evolved. And it was more deeper connection. I mean, it's not all pretty and roses. There's still conflict and stuff, but the connection is really deep. And it was during her teen class that she had.
I remember that one.
You know, and that was like, you know, because it was during my kids were teens, right? So it was like, oh, so need this. This is so helpful. I'm seeing change. And all of a sudden it was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to help parents create connection and deeper relationships and understanding and allowing their kids to have their own journey. We kind of talked a little bit about that in the last episode, our personal experience we both had. So, you know, because it's still a process, right? I'm not perfect by any means, and I don't want to be, and I don't want to pretend to my clients that I have this perfect, everything is great, we never have a conflict. That's not life. So it became clear that supporting parents, so it was the kids are the catalyst and the awakeners, but really it's about internal self-growth. It's just it shows up in our parenting, and that's where we can start to unravel our triggers, go into that perfectionism, go into all of those things, and that reconnecting to their inner child, doing the self-work. And I also, so aside from coaching parents in their relationships to do all of what I just shared, I do circle groups. So I said, I continue the circle group, and I call my circle group Stepping into the Authentic You. And it's a big commitment, but it is so worth it. And the transformation I see in the people who come to this circle group, because it's more, we talk a lot about what we talk on the podcast, but it's more organized and deep, and you focus on one specific area, one specific trigger. I call it something else. I call it a dynamic. And we talk about really intention setting. So you have an intention, you have your dynamic, which is your trigger, what's tripping you up, and then full circle, how to heal that and how to make a different choice when that trigger shows up. And in there, you share a personal part of a story in your life. So people share stuff they've never shared with anyone. It's never left their mouth. It's always been buried deep inside. Awesome. And so the healing and the transformation. So it's, what we have for our vision with what we're creating and collaborating, it's an individual journey with community, because we need community as well, because we can't just do this work alone. I mean, that's why you and I check in and we talk, because it's like, okay, this is showing up. I'm stuck. Okay, we can, and even just talking it out to another person who's on the path helps us.
It's helpful.
And then I learn from you and you learn from me. So it's the same in those circle groups. We're collectively healing together. Right. You may be working on abandonment and this other person might be working on anger, but collectively we're healing each other's abandonment and anger and whatever is showing, there's lots of other areas people work on. So there's that. So really it's personal transformation and growth. And so I don't just work with parents. I work with anyone of any age. I work with men. I work with young adults. I have a couple older teenage clients as well. And like I said, young adults too. So it's not age related. It may look a little different because everyone's path is different, but it's about holding space and non-judgment and really knowing that, what you share is confidential and it's up to you, but we just often need someone else to help us along, because I couldn't have done this without my teachers and coaches and guides and everything at all.
Me too.
It's an important part of it is that, and that was part of my perfectionism was I can do it alone.
Yes.
No, I can't.
It takes a village, doesn't it?
It does. So that's what I do. And then obviously with the podcast, like you said, I mean, I echo everything you said about the podcast. I look forward to it. I love it, and we're so grateful for people listening.
I know, I love it too. Yeah. I think that, I think what it does boil down to is just whether all of it is just helping people to grow, helping people to heal. And doing and having transformation, because that is what happens for me as well with RTT and what we're going to be doing, with our reset, and we're just helping people.
Exactly. And knowing you're not alone and you don't have to do this alone. And there's no shame or embarrassment in asking for help at all.
None at all. And you just stand to gain so much more by reaching out and getting help, getting that support and community. So,
and that each person is worth it. And, I mean, I've spent a lot on courses and teachers.
Oh,
and it's the best money I've ever spent.
I know.
It really is. Aside from, healthy food and putting that into my body and it's nourishing my body, mind, and spirit, and knowing it's okay to do that for yourself.
And it takes a while to get there.
It does.
It's
hard.
Bit.
It's hard that first time.
I know, because
I'm spending this money on me, but I would have dropped it in a heartbeat for my kids. It wouldn't have even been an issue.
We're conditioned to think and believe that it's selfish for us to take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
So that, we just thought we would take this opportunity to get to know, to talk about each other so that you can get to know us a little bit better. And we are going to be doing this 21-day reset very soon. And obviously we have in the show notes, we have your email and your website, my email, my website as well. So if anyone is interested in reaching out or working with you or working with me or joining the 21-day reset, that's all available, and that's all there in the show notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we hope you'll join us for the reset.
Yes.
It's going to be fun and community, like we said. And, then you're not alone. You don't have to do it alone. And we all fall in and out.
And we're doing it virtually. It's all virtual.
Yep. Exactly. So.
And I'm trying to remember, do we say if the people have to show up at that time, or will it be recorded if they don't?
They should be, most of it'll be accessible, so you don't have to join live and
join live. That's the word I was looking for.
So yeah, it'll all be available for everyone when they need to access it.
At your convenience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just taking care of you, putting yourself as a priority, because that's going to ripple out to everyone else.
Put your oxygen mask on first before you assist another.
That's right. So we hope to see you in the reset, and obviously keep listening. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.